And good evening once again, live from the Civic Center on South 3rd Street, PLG, and Kentucky Standard, proud to be presenting yet another of our debates in our series. We'll be here again tomorrow night, and then starting on Monday, we'll be at the PLG studios to conclude our debates. Well, we stay with sheriff candidates, but this time we shift over to the Democrats. And we want to acknowledge the sponsorship of Wilson & Neal Bank and Trust for making this possible by underwriting our debates. And special thanks to Mr. Music for their help as well. And the guys down at the head end of the City of Bardstown Cable Department for facilitating getting these debates out through the cables and out to you. I'm Tom Isaac, by the way, in case you weren't here earlier, but former anchor with PLG. I'm joined by Forrest Berkshire, editor of the Kentucky Standard, and Randy Patrick, one of the reporters, the one who covers most of the topics that we've been discussing in these first debates at any rate. We have three candidates, and as in the past, the ground rule is pretty simple. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for an opening statement. They don't have to take the entire 3 minutes if they've got that much available. 2 minutes for each of the questions, and we'll have a timer. Scott Cederholm is going to be providing the timing for us. So when you hear a bell, that means you've got 30 seconds left in your 2 minutes. The opportunity will also be there for rebuttal or clarification. If in the middle of your opponent's statement, he makes a glaring statement that you feel like needs to be clarified, or you want to disagree, or if he's mischaracterized something that you said, just throw your hand up high enough so I can see it over your sign there, and you'll have another 1 minute. And yes, there are rebuttals to rebuttals. If we got into several of those on our last debate with the two Republican candidates for sheriff. We had a drawing of the forks backstage. Forrest, I don't know what he did or how he did it, but at any rate, he has come up with our order of opening and closing statements. Kenny Downs will be opening, he'll be the opening statement. Then we'll be going to Vermont Panero, and finally to Kaylin Matthews. And we'll just reverse that when we get to the end of our debate. So I think with all that said, that just about covers everything. So we'll go ahead and open it up to Kenny Downs for his opening statement. Kenny?
Thank you, Tom. I'd like to thank PLG and Kentucky Standard and the other sponsors. I'd like to thank everyone for attending. It's so bright I can't see how many's out there, but I appreciate everyone taking their time out of your day to be here. My name's Kenny Downs. I'm married to my wife Dale. We've been married almost 39 years. She's part owner in a business here in Bardstown. She works very hard every day. We do not have any children, however we do have two spoiled rotten dogs named Nelson and Taylor. My parents are Mr. and Mrs. Kenny Downs Sr. My dad passed away about 5 years ago, and my mom is 86 years old and lives on the family farm. She is one of my biggest supporters. She works hard for me every day in hopes of winning this election. I need to tell you all, my mom had a medical problem today. Give me a minute. She had to be transported to the hospital by ambulance, and my heart is not here. I think she's going to be okay, but I haven't even had a chance to get down to see her, and plan on going after this is over. So please bear with me. I think you'll understand. But my mind is somewhere else right now. So, everyone has something unbelievable happen to them in their lifetime, and I'm going to tell you what happened to me today is unbelievable, and that is I was sitting right here, maybe not in this chair, but I was sitting in this spot 20 years ago trying to get this same job. I don't look the same, I'm sure. I was a whole lot younger then. And what's even more unbelievable is it's been 20 years. It seems like it's a year ago. But that's how long that I've wanted this job. Catch up where I was at here. I started my law enforcement career with the Jefferson County Police. There were 3,600 applicants, and Jefferson County was going to hire 20 positions. I was lucky enough to be one of the 20 people that was chosen. Jefferson County Police merged with Louisville City Police in 2003, became Louisville Metro Police, and I spent 6 years there. In 2011, I went to work for the Nelson County Sheriff's Department. I was a bailiff in the courthouse. I stayed there for 2.5 years, and I went to Bloomfield, and I was a Bloomfield Police Chief, and I was there for 3.5 years. I have almost 27 years as a law enforcement officer. I also served my community as a volunteer on the Bardstown Nelson County Volunteer Fire Department. I made the rank of Assistant Fire Chief when I left. I'm sure that my time is about over, as I heard the bell, so I'll continue in my closing statement at the end. Thank you.
All right, Kenny Downs. Ramon Pinero with his opening statement.
Hello, my name is Raymond Pineroa. First, I would like to thank PLG 13 and the Kentucky Standard and Wilson and Muir for hosting the debate, giving us the opportunity to show our platforms. Like I said, my name is Raymond Pineroa. I am the son of the late Ramon Pineroa and Esther Pineroa. I married Tanya Downs Pineroa, the daughter of Herbie and Janie Downs of Bardstown. Myself and Tanya been married for 22 years. We have 3 beautiful children, Gabby, Savannah, and Riley. I grew up in South Florida. After graduating high school, I joined the service, the United States Army, where I served almost 9 years. I graduated basic and the advanced individual training from Fort Knox, Kentucky. Upon completion of my training, I was deployed to South Korea for the first time, and then I returned to Fort Knox, Kentucky. It's going to sound like it's repeated. I returned to Korea for the second time, and I was stationed 6 kilometers by the DMZ in South Korea at Camp Gary Allen. Then I returned to Fort Polk, Louisiana, where I decided to separate from the service. An opportunity came open in 2005 to be hired by the Sheriff's Office, and I was hired by Sheriff Mike Newton at the time. In 2006, I attended the Academy in Richmond, graduated, and my career began as a patrol deputy with the Nelson County Sheriff's Office. I have held the ranks of sergeant, lieutenant, and the assistant sheriff. During my time at the Nelson County Sheriff's Office, I have completed over 480 hours of training. These would include police training officer, Academy of Police supervision, and 80 hours of executive command leadership for sheriffs and chief deputies. For the past 12 years, I have been a member of the Fraternal Order of Police, Old Kentucky Home Lodge 43. I have served as a vice president for a year, and for the past 7 years, I have been the president of the lodge. Under my leadership in the past 3 years, we have raised over $175,000 for different organizations in the community. As your next Nelson County Sheriff, I will continue to focus on public service under 3 guiding principles: professionalism, accessibility, and accountability. Some of the things I would like to do as the next sheriff is put more staff on the road without increasing manpower. Collaborate with AOC, Administrative Officer of the Court, and the judges to maximize the number of deputies in the courthouse. Add another narcotics detective, and work with the school district board to re-implement the SRO for the safety of our children.
We're playing you off the stage. We'll have an opportunity to enlarge on some of those issues later on. And of course, during the closing statement as well.
Yes, sir.
Next to Caleb Matthews.
Thank you, PLG. Thank you, Wilson Muir Bank, all the sponsors for putting on this. My name is Caleb Matthews. I'm a lifelong resident of Nelson County. I grew up in the Nazareth Road area of Nelson County. My parents are Bob and Joe Matthews of Bardstown. The son of 2 retired school teachers, continued education was always important to me. At an early age, I attended the school of Montessori there in the Nazareth community. Some of the lifelong values that I learned there, I still utilize to this day. From there, I attended Bardstown Elementary School. I went on to Old Kentucky Home Middle School, and finally to Nelson County High School. I graduated there in 1998. And during that time at Nelson County, one of the highlights was being a member of the 1996 state championship football team. That group of men did something that many folks thought was impossible. A good old country boys came together and brought home the state championship trophy. I really admired that group of people. From there, I went to the University of Louisville. I attained a bachelor's degree in justice administration, achieved that, and graduated in 2002. In 1999, I met the love of my life, Miss Laura Armstrong of Bloomfield. We live in the Bardstown area still with our daughter Morgan. In 2003, I was hired under then Sheriff Mike Newton. I served as a patrol deputy from 2003 to 2011, when then a great friend of mine, Sheriff Stephen Campbell, took office, and I was promoted to the rank of sergeant. I held that position as a nighttime sergeant for 4 years. Then in 2015, another friend of mine, Sheriff Ed Mattingly, took office. A short time after that, I was promoted to the rank of lieutenant, which I currently serve. I want to extend that journey and serve as your sheriff. So some of the accomplishments after college that I was able to achieve were, I was a distinguished academy graduate from the Department of Criminal Justice Training, which means I graduated with a 95 percentile or higher. I'm also a certified police training officer. I'm Academy of Police Supervision graduate. I went to that and graduated in 2011. I'm also a member of the Nelson County E911 board. I'm currently on the personnel committee. Last fiscal year, I was the chairman of the board. I'm also a fiscally responsible individual that is not scared of obtaining grants. The latest grant that I obtained for our agency to better protect the citizens of Nelson County and equip the staff at the Nelson County Sheriff's Office puts me just under $100,000 in grant money that I've obtained. And I was instrumental in implementing the Citizens Police Academy at the Sheriff's Office. I want to continue that because that is about as transparent and hands-on as you can be to open the doors to the people in Nelson County. Thank you.
Okay, now we go to our questions. And as we did in our first debate with the Republicans, we'll first go to Forrest Berkshire, and we'll be posing most of these questions, I would guess, will be directed at all three of the candidates. But I'll let Forrest do the calling as far as any particular order that he wants to.
Yeah, and we're going to start with Raymond and work down the table for this question here. The sheriff has a wide range of duties. Many people know about the law enforcement aspect of the job, but it also includes collecting taxes, providing court security, serving court papers, and many other duties. With such a wide range of responsibilities, what makes you the ideal choice for the job?
I'm the ideal choice for the job because I'm a listener. I can listen to my leaders. Just because you're at the bottom does not mean that you're not a leader. You got to listen to your personnel. The personnel is what tells you what's going on in the agency. Prime example at the courthouse, you are going to need more people in there because more cases are being ran through the dockets for district and circuit court. So more personnel is needed at the courthouse. You have to listen to your guys. If you don't, then you're not going to be the actual head of the department. If you want to do it your way, then it's going to be a failure.
Okay, Caleb?
Okay, I go back to a leadership philosophy, which is a values-based leadership. And to answer that accurately, I believe you have to look at the transformational leadership style, which you're trusting your people, building on their strengths, and then any weaknesses, other officers are strong in those areas, and you work together to collaborate to be the most efficient and transparent as you can be for the agency. Just a statistic that I'll throw out as far as civil process that our agency had last year. 9,945 civil process papers total came through. 4,339 attempts, 5,606 of those were served. So we had a better serve rate than we did an attempt rate on the civil process end of that. But to answer that accurately, that goes back to, like I said, the transformational leadership style of trusting your people.
And Kenny Downs.
I think most of all, you have to have a heart to be sheriff. And I've had that for the past 20 years trying to achieve this goal, which is a goal of mine. Experience has been mentioned many times, and I've got more experience than any of them that sitting here. I got almost 27 years of law enforcement. I was a supervisor of Jefferson County Police. I became a supervisor after about 3 years at patrol. I've been supervising over 15 officers at a time on a shift. I've been in charge when the SWAT team come out on different things, and homicides and fatal accidents. It takes patience to be a sheriff. You're not going to be able to come up with new laws and rules within the sheriff's department and expect the deputies to do them immediately. If you make changes as a new sheriff, you're going to have patience to let the deputies get used to that. I used to have so many different commanding officers, and every time you get one, their ideals were completely different than the one we had before, and we had to completely turn over and change. You also have to have honesty. You have to be honest with your guys. They have to trust you as much as you trust them, and that takes a lot of leadership. And I've been a robbery detective and a domestic violence detective, and I was over our fugitive unit. And you got to give deputies a chance to advance. And I've been fortunate enough to advance in my whole career. So that gets back to trust. When you see one of your deputies that do a good job day in and day out, then you give them an opportunity to advance. And there's not that many opportunities in a little police department, as they'll tell you. Both these guys are good guys and deserve to be where they're at. So, thank you.
That sounds like the hook coming out the step. Okay. Let's go on over to Randy Patrick and we'll get our next question on the way in particular order here.
Okay, let's just go from left to right. We'll start.
Well, your left or your left?
My left.
We'll go to Kevin.
Was Mr. Downs and Mr. Matthews was better. You kind of touched on this a little bit in expressing your qualifications, but do you have a particular philosophy on how to conduct effective law enforcement?
We kind of answered that. The last question, I think you have to have several qualities, and I'll go ahead and tell you what they are. I've got them in my closing statement, but you have to have experience. You just can't come off the street and be a sheriff. I think you have to have law enforcement experience, and I don't think, it can't be 5 years. I think you have to have several years, because every day you do something different. You have to have leadership, as I mentioned before. I've done that. I've been a leader for almost my whole career. You have to be honest. You have to have dedication, loyalty. And again, you got to have patience. And most of all, you have to have heart. And I'll just give away most of my closing statement. But I'm the type person, I love law enforcement, and I like to get out. And everybody tells me I'm not going to have time to get out. I promise you, I'll be out on the street, and you'll know me. Meet and greets, I don't understand why you have to have a meet and greet if you've been on the Sheriff's Department for 10 years, everybody should know who you are. I know some of the meet and greets is to tell you, what you'd like to do and all that, but I promise you, if I'm elected sheriff, you'll know who I am, and it won't be 10 years. It'll be after I'm there a short time. But I hope to get this position, and you'll see what I can do.
Okay, Caleb.
Okay, yeah, Kenny hit exactly spot on that trust, and then knowing your people. That, once again, you're going to hear me refer to values-based leadership continuously. I'm a true believer of that. And I believe in two different leadership styles. That is a servant leadership style in conjunction with the transformational leadership style. Transactional, which would be more of a dictatorship type, only in extreme scenarios, but I believe in building on the strengths of each other with the transformational leadership style. Like I said, if you're the sheriff, you're not reinventing the wheel. You're going to hear this phrase later on, but we're going to build on the legacies of those that have served before to make the community safer for generations to come. So we're going to combine everybody's strengths. We are public servants. We're going to work together, and we're going to make Nelson County a safer place. Thank you.
With me, it's a lot of elements that you have to put together. leadership, experience, knowledge of the job, and others. My military career and experience, I have worked with diverse groups of people that brings to the table a different style of leadership than my opponents. I have led, I've been led, and I will lead. So with that being said, it's a lot of little elements to the wheel that need to be put together and execute.
All right, and reports.
And I'm going to ask Kaylin this question, and then we'll go to Kenny, and then we'll go to Raymond. What can the local sheriff's office do to reduce the amount of hard drugs like heroin and methamphetamine in our community?
That's a great question. Are we going to stop all drugs? No. You know, your low-level offenders, yes, they're getting the drugs from somewhere. Now, we need to attack the mid to upper-level drug offenders. That's where we're going to put a dent in it. You know, the educational aspect of it, the rehabilitation aspect of it, you know, I support that. But our job is to get those people, put them, incarcerate them, put them in the judicial system, and let the court do its process. But we need to attack the mid to upper level drug offenders, using our resources, equipping our detectives, equipping the narcotics detectives that we have with the right tools, and if they need more tools, we need to be able to obtain those. So we need to attack the mid to upper level to answer that.
Kenny?
I've actually put a lot of thought in this before I even decided to run this time. I explained the drug problem as an animal, like an octopus. I don't know if that's an animal or a mammal, but anyway. You got the main part, you got all these tentacles. You got the Hardin County Task Force, and they'll go and get a tentacle, which is a dealer, and they take them to jail, so you break that tentacle off. But then that tentacle grows back, so it's a revolving door. So what you got to do, you got to end up getting the main part. If you ever get the main part, all these tentacles are all going to die. Now that's kind of a silly explanation, but it's the truth. The one thing I want to do, I know Bardstown City Police just started a tip line. Tip lines are great, but I don't think they work as well when you have to call in on a cell phone, because people don't trust cell phones, and I understand that. So what I want to do, I want to have a tip box at the sheriff's office where you can write down an address or something you want the police to know, and you put it in that box, and we'll check it every day. We won't have cameras on the box. It'll be your free will to walk up and put whatever you want in that tip box. And I also get with the task force, and they can keep and look at it, and if we get something that they need to be aware of, we'll let them know. I also want to get with the task force and find out about hotspots. A hotspot is a place where there's possible drug activity. There's a lot of cars going in and out, and we get that from the public. If we get a hotspot, I'll have a pin map, and I'll put that spot on that pin map, and we'll do extra patrol in that area and hopefully get that drug dealer moved out. But the most important thing is I've already checked on cameras for the Bluegrass Parkway, and I'm about to run out of time, but each and every exit will have a camera. I've already went through Frankfort. I've got our representative looking at it. I don't think the funding's going to be there. And look what we could have maybe kept from happening if we'd had them out there already. And drug dealers come in on most of the interstates, and we can probably, with an app on your phone, you can monitor those cameras. But that's something I'm doing. Even if I'm not fortunate enough to get this job, I will continue to try to get cameras on the Bluegrass Parkway.
Okay.
And then move on to other locations in Nelson County. Thank you.
With me, I would add another narcotics detective to attack. We have to be proactive instead of reactive. If we continue to sit and wait, we're just going to be part of the problem, not part of the solution. The guys that are assigned to the task force, both the city and the sheriff's office guy, they stay extremely busy. They've worked over 100 cases just in the past 6 months or a year. So the manpower needs to be added, whether it's to them or to the sheriff's office, to work with that. Also, the resources about cameras, it costs money. I agree with Kenny. If we can fund it, whether it's periodically or by phases, by doing that, With the former sheriff, we talked about it and we looked into putting posts and running electricity to it and running a Wi-Fi where a camera could be on 24/7, but it costs money. If grants can be available or different avenues or corporations want to donate the money, we can execute those things. Just got to be proactive instead of reactive.
Galen, you requested an extra minute there.
Well, yeah,
Part.
just to follow up on Kenny's, I totally agree with the idea because not everyone wants to use a cell phone, the internet as means of communication. So I would like to implement a tip line as well as also, when I say cell phones, I meant via social media, things of that nature, but implement a tip line as well as like a tip box, like he said. And you know, these goals, I'll call them goals, are something to shoot for. However, with the current pension, that's going to affect us around $38,000 increase through 2019. So adding manpower right now, we have to find alternative means to be able to do that, just to be accurate and honest with the public.
All right. I think it's Forrest, it's your turn next. I've almost lost track of you.
It's
Randy, okay. Randy, just throw your hand up.
All right. We're going to start with Raymond Pinero and then work our way toward that end on this question. Law enforcement often involves conflict, and there are times when people feel they've been treated unfairly by an officer or that an officer has acted unprofessionally. How will you handle allegations of deputies' misconduct?
We would do we currently have a form where the individual would come in and file the complaint. So it's a complaint, not just an allegation, and we would address the situation. That would be part of the accountability process of my 3 principles. If the deputy is wrong, he is wrong, and we will address the situation. But vice versa, if the citizen is making an allegation and it's not true, we will address the citizen as well.
Mine is threefold: integrity, accountability, and teamwork. So integrity, meaning obviously always do what's right. Sum up integrity in a nutshell right there. Accountability, we're going to hold each other accountable. My command staff's going to hold their deputies accountable, and the public is going to hold me, the sheriff, accountable. And then teamwork, working together when we're in the when the deputies are in the field. That way they're making sure that they're doing things right. But if a complaint comes in, it's going to, just like Raymond said, we're going to look at that. But if the individual is not telling the truth, we're going to address that in another means as well.
Okay, Kenny?
Basically, same thing both of them said. I think as a leader, you get to know your deputies, and I think you'll eventually see how each one of them police the personalities. There's no two deputies, no 2 law enforcement officers police the same. You can take 2 different victims, or 1 victim and 2 different law enforcement officers, and have them go in and talk to them, and they're going to come out, and one of them will take a report, one of them will have a list of things this long, they're very satisfied with them. The other one will come out and say, well, there's no reason for a report. And it happens all the time, especially in a big department in Louisville. And sometimes you might have to go back and take a report. But as far as complaints, you can look at an officer's history and tell whether or not the complaints are actual. And just by talking to them, if they come in and say, you know, I did this or I did that, you get a lot from just their normal conversation on what they do out on the street. One thing I can promise you, if I'm elected sheriff, you will not hear from me or a deputy. It's 6 words, and there is nothing we can do. That drives me crazy. There's always something you can do for a victim. And if I have a deputy who keeps telling me there's nothing we can do, then we're going to have a problem. So, thank you.
Okay, now for us.
Do you support the concept of officers wearing body cameras? And do you think sheriff's deputies should be wearing them? And we'll start with Kenny and work our way.
off the police department when the body cameras came out. I don't really know all the legal issues with them. I'm kind of 50-50. I think it's a great tool if you, God forbid, are involved in a shooting, but I don't know it's a great tool if I have to come in your house and my body camera's on. I think you have a right to privacy. I don't know if you can manually turn them in and turn them on. I'm not sure about exactly how they work because that came after I was already gone. But I would look at them and you know, like the other candidates spoke earlier, I do know that there's a lot of maintenance with them and they are very expensive, and if you're going to get cheap ones like they say they got, it's a waste of time if they're not going to work and they half work. I had a camera in my police car, and whenever I turned my lights on, that camera worked, and it's come in handy numerous times. Body cameras, whenever I made a holdup at a bank, I pulled up in front of the bank and turned my camera on with my police car. That way I had a video of whoever the perpetrator was. If they come out of the bank, I had a video of them when they ran out. So, you know, and they could do the same thing with the body cameras. I just really, to answer that exact, I don't know. I'm about 50-50 with it. I'd have to do more investigation on it.
Yeah, I have to agree with Kenny on that. You know, a body cam, you know, it's perception. So, you know, one side may see one way, one side may see the other. So that could be the 50-50 portion of it. But then you have the funding, the cost. You know, so if you obtain it on a grant, then you have to have a reoccurring grant because, you know, over time that database, it's going to get full of memory. And if you buy cheap cameras, you get what you pay for, so to speak. And then you get into the old Fourth Amendment legality portion of it where they're in homes, that sort of thing. So I can't say that I'm for it or against it. I would definitely look into it in the future, but once again, that comes down to funding, and then you have to, more than likely, going to have to obtain grants to be able to achieve that.
Body cameras are good, but I agree with both of them. It's a 50-50 toss-up. How much it costs, how much you're going to add a body to pull the open records from Forrest and Randy and whatnot. It's going to be a more in-depth look at how much it's going to cost, because it's all about the value of the cameras. If you buy a high quality, you're going to need a high quality server. There's agencies that when you pull up to that agency, they dump themselves to that server. There's cameras that you have to manually go in there, plug them into a server, and download them. So it's looking at how much and what elements are we willing to spend on them. I think the body cameras are good. I was in a class once and they showed a body camera from the gentleman, the officer, and you couldn't see everything, but his beat partner pulled up and got a second view, and that saved that officer. So it could be a double-edged sword on both for the officer and for the public.
Okay.
You see what that camera views. I was told that networking in the last 3 years, I was told by Sheriff Jimmy Clemens, don't buy a camera that has night vision lighting for it. So if you work night, you don't want a camera that's got night vision. And so I asked him why, and he said, because you're watching like it was daylight, and you don't see everything in that camera, what you're seeing in real life.
Okay, thanks. Randy?
All right, with this one, we'll start with Kaylin, and then Kenny, and then Raymond. There's been a lot of concern about school safety as a result of what happened in Parkland and other places. Do you support having school resource officers in local schools, and would you commit a deputy as a school resource officer?
Oh, I support the idea wholeheartedly. But, you know, there's, excluding the city schools, I believe I came up with the right number, there's 14 county schools total. So not one school is more important than the other. So that comes down to that. Now, I know one thing that I currently do, and some of the other guys actually on my crew do, is periodically, we're unpredictable, we'll pop in schools, we stop in, we talk. I think when you look at being, when I say unpredictable, popping in like that, that way if somebody was going to carry out a threat, they don't know when you're going to show up there. That's something, honestly, that you can do. Being able to fund it, that's being dishonest to the public on that. And being able to justify pulling one of the deputies and putting them in the school, we can't do that when you have a whole county, just under 50,000 residents. That would be unfair to that. But absolutely, that would be something to look for in the future through some type of a grant. Absolutely.
Okay.
I don't know so much about being opposed or for a resource officer. I'll tell you what I would be for is adopt a school. Each deputy picks a school and he adopts that school and periodically goes in and the only thing that I don't like about this is I did adopt a school in Louisville. I had Indian Trail Elementary, and I would try to go during lunch because that way you're talking to all the kids and you're not interrupting class. But they had a traffic light in the cafeteria, and if it was green, the kids could talk. If it went to yellow, they had to calm down. If it went to red, it was total silence. As soon as I entered that door, it went to yellow. And I was there 5 minutes and it went to red. And then it's total silence. I'm sitting there with 200 kids and nobody's saying anything. So, but to adopt a school, you let the teachers know pretty much when you're going to stop by and catch the students out in the hallway. But each deputy could pick a school throughout the county and stop by there. But the other hand, if you've got paperwork to do, what they told us to do in Louisville, and I agree with it 100%, when you get backed up on your paperwork, go to a school parking lot and do your paperwork. Sit there in your police car. That police car is the biggest deterrent you can. Take a police car up there and park it. Leave it all day. Whatever you got to do. There's a few things that we can do to make our schools safer. I've practiced with the SWAT team. Actually made the SWAT team in the 90s, and I've practiced with the SWAT team on school shootings, and they've recommended for all the patrol officers to go by the schools and like I said, do the paperwork. But the adopt a school, I think, is better than the resource because just like you said, it's not fair to other schools. You can't put, if there's 14, you can't put 14 deputies in each school and leaving one school out. So again, adopt a school, they go by, you know, they take that particular school that's theirs, and it gives them a responsibility too.
Okay, Raymond.
Okay, under my administration, when I'm elected sheriff, I will be working with the school board as they were already planning to put an SRO. They're in the business of hiring teachers, not police officers, okay? What I'll do is go and work out the finances to get that SRO, the school resource officers, and put them in that school. If not one, maybe two. Under my administration, guys will be going to assigned schools on their flex day. This is not a flex detective, this is not a flex. Flex days for us is a day that we go out and serve papers. During those days, you're assigned an area. What more common sense is it not to go down to the common area that you're assigned your papers and go to that school? If you got the Boston area, you're gonna go down there. If you got Howardstown papers, you're gonna go down to that Minute Mart and be down there. Just because it's a school, I want you guys visible. I want you being out there. So those guys will have an assigned area for papers, and at the same time, they're going to be visible in the schools.
Yes, Kaylin.
Yes, I was going to say, you know, currently, something like I said, my crew, we're already periodically doing that as well. But once again, when you have, if you have someone assigned to a certain school, so if there's another rotation that you know, another crew is working and they're off, then you let that school absent. So the unpredictability of us showing up, not knowing when we're coming, is about as accurate as you can get as far as being at the school.
Yes.
That's the same thing as if Kaylin's crew is off. Right now we have two teams, okay? So my team is opposite as Kaylin's team. So if Kaylin's off, who's gonna go patrol those schools while Kaylin is off? So the idea is, if you're on your flex day on your Friday, you will go to those schools whether you're there or not. It's rotating schedule, guys. It's not the same days that you're gonna be going to those schools. You go on your Friday and we have a rotating schedule. You would have to be really smart to go out here and keep track of our schedule find out when we're on and when we're off.
And this question will go to Kalen. The Kentucky State Police are investigating 3 serious unsolved crimes in Nelson County. The murder of Jason Ellis, the murders of Samantha and Catherine Netherland, and what appears to be the targeted assassination of Tommy Ballard. Should the Nelson County Sheriff's Office be more involved with the investigation of these crimes? We'll go to Kalen, then Raymond, and then McKinney.
That's a great question. We'll be as involved as the state police wants us to be. They are the lead agency on that. We will not run a parallel investigation. We will work in unity with them. Okay, so if they want our assistance, absolutely. We are already working with them, but if they do want us to extend working with them, we will. But we will not run a parallel against what they're doing, because then you jeopardize the case and the investigation as a whole.
With me, you have to open relationships with KSP. They have 1 trooper. When I started 12 years ago, they had 3 or 4 troopers that were assigned to this area. I know they've been short with all the retirements, with all the pension ordeal, and it's hard to get troopers to come work in Nelson County. Is it because the relationships broke? Maybe. But under me, we will, whether we talk to the Commissioner Rick Sanders or the Post Commander Johnson or whoever, we will build those relationships. And like Kalen said, we will not work in doing an investigation that they're already doing. If they need our assistance, we live in this county. We work this county. Who knows this county better than the guys that work it? The relationships that we build with the community are the ones that are going to call you and tell you the tips. What I would say to the community is, if you know something, be responsible and come forward with any information that you have on any of those cases or more cases. It does not have to be just those. Be responsible. If it was your family, what would you do? What would you want them to do?
Kenny?
I don't know what the relationship is between the state police and the Nelson County Sheriff's Department. I can tell you this, when I was a Bloomfield police chief, the captain in E-Town with KSP would call me periodically on getting information from around Bloomfield. We had a great relationship. He didn't tell me what he wanted it for, but I would, whatever he asked me to do, I would do. And I gave him several locations and several license numbers. I don't know what they did with it. But each and every police department has to have a good relationship. I don't know what the relationship with Bardstown City Police is with the Sheriff's Department. I've heard in the past it wasn't that great. I wanted to attend the City Council meeting, Bardstown City Council meeting, to introduce myself and see if I could improve relationships with the police department, and I was asked not to show up, so I didn't. But anyway, but getting back to state police, again, I don't know, not being on the Sheriff's Department, it's a hard question for me to ask, because I really don't know how close-knit those two are, so.
Okay, let's go to Randy.
Okay, Raymond, if you'll answer this one and work our way that direction. One serious investigation that the Sheriff's Office is leading is into the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. How would you handle the case as sheriff?
I've spoken with Sherry Ballard, and I've promised her that we will continue to work the case. The biggest part is somebody knows something. This is not just a done deal where one person did it, 2 people. Somebody knows something. Somebody's heard something. I can tell you that our office has worked their tails off, okay? Our detectives has worked their tails off. For the first 2 weeks, we were working 16 to 18 hours a day. And I can promise you that we will continue to work it, but we need help from the public. And ain't ashamed of asking for help. If we need help from the FBI, which they've been involved, if we need help from anybody else, which you guys have followed this case very intensely, and we were not afraid, we were not scared to ask for help, okay? But we will continue to work it, and I believe in the future we will have an arrest. Time is in our side. It may not be for the family, and I understand that. But let me put it to them. The 2 people or 3 people or whoever it is that's involved, they got their day coming.
Okay.
Ditto. He answered that spot on, absolutely. And I can tell you that obviously all of us want to put closure to the Ballard family. I mean, I can try to put myself in their shoes, and I can't imagine. Just some statistics to put on top of that, because I couldn't answer that any better. That is exactly the truth. There was a total of 67 search warrants done on that case to date. Over $60,000 in overtime pay, man hours put in it, been to 3 different states. So our guys have worked tremendously on that case. We've used every resource that was available that I'm aware of, you know, whether it be dive teams, you know, the canines, anything and everything. And it will be my promise to the Ballard family that we will do everything possible to bring them closure, hopefully quicker, but we will do everything possible to bring them closure and get an arrest on that.
Yeah, okay.
Same thing, I'm not on the sheriff's department, I don't know what they've done. I haven't seen a case file. I have not a clue what investigation's been done, how it's been done. Crystal's grandfather called me and asked me if I was elected sheriff, what I would do with that case. And I promised him, I said, I'll tell you. I said, I don't know a whole lot about what they've done. But I said, if you, any kind of evidence, hard evidence that you bring to me or we get, and these guys will tell you the same thing, we're going to give it 110%. I grew up down the street from her grandfather and her uncles and aunts, and they're a great family, and again, what they've been through is terrible. I've lost 2 brothers tragically. They weren't murdered, they were killed in accidents, and you never get over it, and I can't imagine if they'd been murdered. You just, something you got to look at and see where we're at. I'm not beyond, I don't know if they bought in a big agency. Chris Middleton said earlier about homicide in Louisville. Bring Louisville Metro down here, let them look at the case file, see if they have any ideas. The more people that you can, in law enforcement, that you can let look at that case file and look and see what's done, and I'm sure everything possible has been done. I think the better chance of getting that case solved. But we have more than just Crystal out here that we need to help with too. I put this band on when Jason Ellis was murdered, and I swore I wouldn't take it off until they find out who killed him. And I might go to my grave with it, but I'm gonna wear that till the day and find out who did all this. But I think, again, as they said, I think eventually, some people will be brought to justice.
I pose this question to the Republican candidates for sheriff, and to do the same thing with you guys. What do you see as the role of the sheriff in pushing some of these cases, some of these incidents to a grand jury? Do you see the sheriff playing a role in doing that? And Raymond, if we
Could you expand on it? Are we talking about having a case that is solid and sending it through the grand jury? Yes, I mean, that's our job. But we did it with Crystal's case and utilized the grand jury to question subjects of interest or that might know because we heard it through this or through that. Yes, but at the end of the day, the cases have to be presented to the grand jury. First, we take it to Terry Gohagen's office, and they look it over. If there's enough, they'll present it to the grand jury. If not, they're going to call you and tell you, we need a little bit more or solid evidence on this. And you just have to work with, we're a team. This is not just the sheriff's office. This is not about Raymond Penaroa. We all have to put the puzzle together, and it goes all the way from the justice system to the prosecutors to us. But it starts with us. We got to have the evidence and the things, the elements to charge somebody with.
Caleb?
Okay, well, ultimately, that is up to the prosecutor's office. I mean, we can do as much as we can, but ultimately we would take the case to them, and it's ultimately their decision. So as sheriff, I would look at the case in conjunction with the detectives, the detective that's currently working on that case, and we would review anywhere that we may enhance on and build on that. But like Raymond said, the teamwork aspect, so it's what we bring to them, and they can give us suggestions back if there's another avenue that we need to explore, things of that nature. But like I said, that is an ongoing process. It's going on every single day. There's not a day goes by that something is not getting looked at. The case is constant and ongoing. So on our road, that's just giving that to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to review.
Yeah, okay.
There's two things, it's investigation and evidence. That's the two main things that you take to the grand jury. I've been to the grand jury many times in Louisville. You collect evidence by investigating, and apparently, right now there's not enough evidence to take to the grand jury to get an indictment and a trial. But the thing you got to worry about is if you do have a suspect and you do take it to the grand jury and you do get an indictment and then you make an arrest and it goes to court and that particular person or persons are found not guilty, and then later on you find hard evidence, a smoking gun if you will, then it's double jeopardy. You can't try those. You can't try them again. So you got to look way ahead and further than the grand jury to see whether or not you can follow all the way through with the case. So it gets back to evidence and investigation.
Okay, thanks. Forrest.
Okay, this is going to be our final question. It's kind of general, but we're going to start with Kenny, and we'll work our way down in a row. As you have campaigned this year and talked with the public, what is it you have learned from talking with citizens that surprised you the most?
I had a guy pull a gun on me. I don't know, that surprised me. All I wanted to do was put a sign in his yard. And I did. I was running when I did it, but I did. You know, to answer that, this way I'm going to answer that, okay? I could care less about a citation. I could care less. I can go out here and sit at this stop sign and write 10 in an hour. Probably more than that. More important to me is I like to talk to people. I would rather for a deputy to come in and say, Kenny, I was out on 49 today and I seen a family sitting out in the yard. I pulled in and I sat and talked to them for half an hour. And getting back to what these guys were saying earlier, if you want to find out stuff, let them get used to you and trust you, and it gets back to the trust with them, and that's the way you find out things. I sit and talk. It's hard, they'll tell you, when you knock on a door and you sit there for 20 minutes talking to somebody, and then that's all you're going to get that one door that night. I've put kerosene heaters together for a lady, and then I found out she couldn't vote for me after I put it together. I stayed there for 4 or 5 hours, I don't remember. I've fed dogs. I've helped people get dogs in. It's just unbelievable. But it's fun. It really is. I don't like bothering people. I hate knocking on doors and interrupting people, what they're doing for that day. But you'll find most of the time people are interested in what you have to say, and it's kind of fun. But I'm going to be honest with you, you meet the good, the bad, and ugly.
Carolyn, surprises?
Surprises. Just the mere fact that, you know, when we're in this profession, a lot of times we're dealing with a small portion of the population, and then the other good people that you do see, you see even more of them when you're out on the campaign trail. And it's just, you know, folks that you've known, that you haven't seen for a while, and then new folks. And then when you explain your vision, and they really like what you're saying, and they understand where you're coming from, and just the, you know, it being genuine. You know, I'm old-fashioned in the sense that I value the one-on-ones. You know, you can do big venues all day, and they're great, and you get a lot of attention, but that one-on-one you know, that genuine feel is what I like. You know, I value human life. I love Nelson County. I love the citizens here. You know, my whole personal and professional career, it's been right here. And like I said, that's what I love. Thank you.
Raymond?
So for the past 15 years, I've been a real people person. I've coached football. I've raised money for when my kids were in school. I've raised money for this. I've done this. I've done that. Was doing my campaign, walking door to door. Could see the lady. She's on the phone. She's coming towards the door. She opens the door, and I said, "Ma'am, my name is Raymond Penarova. I'm out here asking for your vote." And before I could even finish, she said, "I'm not voting for you." She hurt my feelings. I went home and I told my wife, I said, "This little lady, she hurt my feelings." And she could tell that I was devastated from her the way. She wouldn't even, she said, "I'm not voting for you." I said, "Okay, ma'am, have a good day." She's like, I've known them all my life. And that's a common theme if you're from Nelson County and in the South. I've known them all my life. But at the end of the day, I've loved the door-to-door, meeting new people, meeting people that support me, and it's been interesting. The county's too big to knock on every door, but like they are, we're trying, and we're knocking, and we're gonna keep knocking until the 21st.
Any of you had some addition?
I was just gonna ask Raymond who she's gonna vote for.
Kenny, she didn't tell me. She's voting for one of you two.
Maybe the Republicans, who knows? Okay, well, we're at the point where we need to go into our closing statements. Each of the three candidates will have 3 minutes, and Scott will be on the job again, so we'll get a bell at the 30-second to go mark. There it is. And as we mentioned at the outset, Kaylin will be leading off, Raymond, and then Kenny.
Okay, thank you. As you've heard tonight, my whole personal and professional career has been dedicated right here to the citizens of Nelson County. I'm a firm believer in 2 leadership styles, a transformational and a servant leadership style. Every single individual at the agency brings something good to the table, and we're going to build on that, and we're going to move forward with that. We're also public servants. We work for you, the public, and we value your input. I will be an open door policy. One phrase: to build on the legacies of those that have served before, to make the community safer for generations to come. We're not reinventing the wheel. We're going to build, we're going to move forward. Thank you very much. God bless, and vote Kaylin Matthews, May 22nd, Democratic ticket. Thank you.
All right.
I would like to thank you guys for hosting this, PLG 13, the Kentucky Standard, and Wilson Muir Bank. I would also like to thank my family, my friends, my supporters, but especially my wife. She's my rock. I also want to thank Kenny and Kaylin. You guys have been nothing but great. I believe that in collaboration with our deputies, other law enforcement agencies, and the community members, we can have a sheriff's office that we're all proud of. By promoting professionalism, accessibility, and accountability, we can proactively work to prevent and solve crimes. I have spent most of my adult life serving and protecting this country and this community. I am excited for the opportunity to serve you as the next Nelson County Sheriff. So I respectfully ask for your vote and support on May 22nd in the Democratic primary for Nelson County Sheriff. Thank you.
And finally, Kenny Downs.
Same thing. These guys have been great. First time I ran for sheriff, I was sitting right here, and there was 8 of us. And one of the candidates brought up, he said, "Can you imagine having a police department with all 8 of us? How good it would be?" I think it's the same thing here. It's been a tiring election campaign. I've done it 5 times, I know. But anyway, I want to take this opportunity to thank every candidate. that's in this election this year and putting themselves in that political ring. It's not always a pleasant place to be, and we all have a common goal, and that is to make the quality of life in our community the best it can be. I promise, if elected, to never forget that you, the citizen of this community, are the ones I answer to. You are my boss. I've been a first responder for over 40 years of my life. I love doing it. And I'm getting older, and I know it's coming to an end down the road before too long. But I've spent almost 3/4 of my life being a first responder. I spent over 20 years of my life as a first responder in Nelson County. There are several qualities that I gave you earlier that I think a sheriff has to have. One is experience. You're going to hear that number one. And I have 27 years, almost 27 years. Leadership. I've been a leader on 3 different police departments. Honesty. I've always been honest. There's not a letter in my file that's a bad one. They're all accommodation. Dedication. I went to work every day. Matter of fact, one time I came home sick at 10 o'clock. I told my boss, I said, I don't feel good. I came home. I got home about 9 o'clock. I laid down. I got up at 10. I felt better. I put my uniform on, went back to Louisville, and went to work. Everybody down there said I was crazy. But that's dedication, because I wanted to be there. Loyalty falls right back to what I just said. Patience, what I said earlier. It takes patience to be a sheriff. You're not going to get everything done at one time. If you do, you're going to be in big trouble. You're going to have to listen, look, and watch. When you first go in and see, these guys know kind of what and how the sheriff's department operates. Most of all, you have to have heart, and I've got the heart, and they do too, or they wouldn't be here. I'll give 100%, 110% every day. I will be at work every single day. You'll see me out on the street. I love law enforcement, and I have a passion for helping people. Give me the privilege of serving you as your next sheriff. Please vote Kenny Downs, May 22nd for Nelson County Sheriff, and watch me go. Thank you.
Okay, our thanks to the 3 candidates in the primary for Nelson County Sheriff, the Democratic primary, and quickly acknowledging Wilson and Muir Bank and Trust as our underwriting sponsor for these debates, Mr. Music for their help, and the guys at the head end, Bardstown City Hall, where the cable starts. Our crew tonight included John White, Matt Gordon, also Scott Cederholm with the sound effects, of course, and Jamie Sizemore, and we did have an addition to, Patrick Bean. I want to thank him and coming in and joining us. And of course to my 2 colleagues on the right and left. On the right, Randy Patrick on the left, and that's nothing to do with politics. We've got Forrest Berkshire. I'm Tom Isaac reminding you we'll be back here again tomorrow night, starting at 6 o'clock. We've got State Representative candidates James DeWeese and Corey Miller. That'll be at 6. And at 7 o'clock, the Democratic Jailers candidates Dorcas Figg, Michael Johnson, and John Buck Snell. So as I did last night, I will say this has been Tom Isaac. Have a great evening, and an even better tomorrow. Good night.
Would you like to